What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants just traded up and made their first-round draft pick, Deonte Banks, cornerback, Maryland. I've been calling for him. What an elite athlete, a great prospect for the New York Giants to land in the first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. I'm hyped. I know Alex is hyped. This is a player that a lot of you all were calling for in the comment section of our Fireside Giants YouTube videos. So shout out to all of you, and shout out to Deonte Banks for being the newest member of the New York Giants. I can't be more excited for this pick. I really think this is a future home run pick for the Giants. Cornerback was a need for the team. Wide receivers were coming off the board left and right 4 in a row, and then the Giants said, screw it, we're trading up and taking the best cornerback on the board, and there they go. They drafted Deonte Banks out of Maryland, and again, I am so excited. I'm sure you can all feel my energy, hear my energy. This is a great pick in my opinion, and listen, we're going to go ahead, break him down, give our reaction on him, give you the pros and the cons beyond Deonte Banks, our first round draft pick in this draft. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing tonight, my friend, and what are your thoughts on the Deonte Banks selection?
Guys, we have the future at cornerback. I don't think you understand how valuable this player is. The upside, athleticism, flex, the versatility, the everything this player has is exactly what we needed to pair with Adoree Jackson right now. We always felt as though cornerback was going to be the pick. We always felt as though they were looking at some guys. Joey Porter, we talked about Emmanuel Ford, we talked about Deonte Banks. And Banks, Anthony, kudos to you, nailed this one on the head. Absolute freaking gunshot, sniper shot from 2 miles away. Banks at 24. Made that little move up, make sure we get him. It's fine, give up the 160th and 240th overall pick, so day 3 is a little bit lighter for us. But again, those are shots in the dark anyway. Worthwhile to make sure you get your guy. You don't get leapfrogged by a team like the Eagles or teams that try to do these things to us all the freaking time. Deonte Banks, guys, and let's start to break him down. This is a tremendous grab for the Giants. If you are upset about this pick, you don't know anything about Deonte Banks, and you're about to. So stay around for a couple minutes to learn about him. This is the player in the 2023 NFL Combine that had the highest athletic score of any defensive back in the entire draft class. He had one of the best defensive back athletic scores in the history of the freaking Combine. This is an elite athlete, guys. This is not an Eli Apple. This is not a guy who's very slow, even like a James Bradbury, more of a zone coverage guy. This is a flexible, versatile cornerback that fits a multitude of different schemes. He ran a 4.35 with a 1.49 10-yard split, 42-inch vertical jump. This guy is an absolute monster. He ranked in the 98th percentile in athleticism score. The NFL.com has him projected to be an above-average starter. This is the perfect player you want to groom behind Adoree Jackson to eventually assume that CB1 role. That Jackson and Banks combo in 2023 is going to hit just right. This is going to be a really fun unit to watch as long as they can stay healthy, knock on wood. Banks is a tremendous player coming from Maryland. In the Big Ten, this is a really fun player with so much upside. That was the word I used. And if you guys want to follow along on my Twitter kind of concept here, using one word, how would you describe this pick? How would you describe the Giants drafting Deonte Banks? Mine was upside, because I do see the unlimited upside here. The only qualm with him is that he doesn't have the best ball skills. However, we have one of the best DB coaches in football with Jerome Henderson. Look what he did for guys like Nick McLeod. Look what he did for Fabian Moreau. Made them serviceable. Got them to be serviceable in the ball skills category. This is a player who has tremendous coaches behind him, ridiculous athletic scores. He, if he lives up to the potential, is going to be a CB1, and a freaking damn good one at that. I am ecstatic with this pick, Anthony. What are your thoughts about his athletic profile and everything he's bringing to this New York Giants football team?
All right, so if you're asking me what is the one word that I would use to describe this pick, the one word that I would use, athleticism. Now, you asked me about his athletic profile. There is not a better athletic profile in this draft class than Deonte Banks. A 4.35 second 40-yard dash. Now, that is blazing fast. That is literally, arguably, that is the fastest player on the New York Giants roster right now. Okay, 4.35 second, that is blazing fast. Deonte Banks being a cornerback that can keep up with every single wide receiver in the NFL. Now, here's one way to look at this, right? When you're the New York Giants and you're looking at the division, right? The NFC East. Who's in this division? Who do we need to shut down? You're looking at guys like Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, CeeDee Lamb. You need a cornerback. If you're the Giants and you want to compete in the NFC East, you want to win the NFC East, make it deep in the NFC postseason, you need a better cornerback. You need more than what you had at this position. So yes, I love Adoree Jackson. Great player on the final year of his contract, however. Plus, opposite of him, not a whole lot of talent. So Deonte Banks being an athletic freak who has CB1 potential, that is the perfect fit if you are the New York Giants. This is a guy where when you go up against the Philadelphia Eagles and they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, well, now you have Adoree Jackson and Deonte Banks. That's the solution to that exact problem. That's your key to potentially winning the NFC East. So if the New York Giants do win the NFC East this upcoming season, Deonte Banks will be a big part of that. So remember that I said that. Mark my words on that. I'm willing to stand on this because, listen, I love Deonte Banks. I thought this was a great prospect for the New York Giants to target. I am so happy that they sacrificed a couple of mid-round picks to move up and ensure that they got Deonte Banks. Listen, the trade, I know some fans are going to say, well, why did we move up? Why did we trade those picks just to move up one spot? I know Joe Shane just let out a quote where he said we didn't want to get greedy, whatever. Listen, there had to be multiple teams looking to get Deonte Banks. If you're the New York Giants and Deonte Banks is your guy, you are trading up and you are making sure that Deonte Banks is wearing a New York Giants helmet. I don't care. I will trade away those mid-round picks to ensure that I land an elite athlete, an elite prospect like Deonte Banks. Now, if you're looking at Joe Shane's draft history, take a look at last year. The Giants drafted a bunch of athletes. If you're going by relative athletic score, I'm pretty sure that last year they only drafted one player who didn't have an elite relative athletic score. So this year, if you were looking at last year, you knew that they were going after an elite athlete in the first round, and Deonte Banks is the most elite athlete in this draft class. He has size, he has strength, he has speed, he has man coverage, zone coverage capabilities, he's scheme independent. This is what you want if you are the New York Giants. A versatile defense calls for a versatile cornerback. And the Giants, yes, they play a lot of man coverage, but they also play a lot of single high, cover three, zone coverage. They play a lot of press coverage. They needed a cornerback who can hold up in all three of those facets: man coverage, zone coverage, press coverage, off coverage. Deonte Banks can do all of those things, and a lot of it has to do with his elite athleticism. So if you're Wink Martindale and you're sitting there in the draft room and you're like, get me a corner, just get me one of these guys who can be a really talented player for me, Deonte Banks fits the bill. He's scheme independent. He's an elite athlete. And when you are an elite athlete, you can play in any defense at any time. So regardless of if Wink Martindale is the New York Giants coordinator for 2023 and beyond, or just 2023, Deonte Banks has the potential to be an elite player no matter what scheme the Giants are running, which I think is a very important factor to bring into this equation. So when you're looking at the career that he had at Maryland, listen, this guy played the best of the best competition. 6 foot, 198 pounds, fits the archetype of what Wink Martindale looks for on defense, and again, has those first round traits, has that scheme versatility, and has that absolutely elite athleticism. In my opinion, this is a perfect fit if you're the New York Giants. It's one of those situations where value meets need, right? One of the best players on the board, arguably the best player available, plus a massive position of need for the New York Giants. This is a perfect fit for this team. Listen, they needed a corner. They needed an elite talent. They got an elite talent at the cornerback position. What more could you ask for if you're the New York Giants? I get it. A bunch of the wide receivers came off the board. If the Giants were going to trade up, why didn't they trade up for a wide receiver? Well, listen, have you heard what all the pundits have been saying all week? A lot of these wide receivers are complementary pieces, not true primary number one wide receivers. But Deonte Banks, what have they been saying about him? Is he complimentary cornerback? No. A lot of them have been saying that he is a true primary CB1 in the right defense, and the New York Giants are the right defense. They have Adoree Jackson right now as your CB1. Banks would be your CB2. Cordell Flott can maybe move into the slot. It'll be all good. And then once they finally move on from Adoree Jackson, you best believe that Deonte Banks moves into that CB1 role, and he can be, truly can be an elite potential player in this New York Giants defense. So, Alex, when you're looking at his athleticism, when you're looking at the potential that this guy brings to the New York Giants defense, you have to be excited, right? What are you feeling after this Deonte Banks selection?
Look, I'm feeling like our defense just got significantly better, right? Cornerback was probably our biggest weakness. If you look at the roster objectively, aside from Adoree Jackson, we don't have anyone there I trust. I don't trust Darren Robinson. I still think Cordell Flott needs time to develop. Deonte Banks can step in and be our CB2 immediately, and Cordell Flott could even help compete in the slot role alongside guys like Darnay Holmes and Aaron Robinson. Now our secondary is a lot better on paper. It looks a lot better. Deonte Banks, like you mentioned, the athleticism is paramount when it comes to his qualities. He had the fourth highest athleticism grade of any cornerback in the last decade, guys. 10 years of draft classes. He had the fourth highest athleticism score of any cornerback in the last decade. That is insane. Just to think about what type of player we are getting. If the Giants can coach him up right, this is going to be an elite CB1. And the fact that we got a player of that caliber at 24 is outstanding. You know, you saw the Lions take an Alabama running back at 12. What are they doing? We saw some really, really weird guys go. You saw Will McDonald out of Iowa State go to the Jets. Like, what are some of these teams doing? There is a legitimate potential CB1 on the board in Deonte Banks, and the Giants are sitting there like, they're sitting really quiet, like, you know, that nobody knows if we're going to go receiver. Nobody knows if we're going to go cornerback. Nobody knows what we're going to do. But the whole time, they were just waiting for their opportunity to strike. Jordan Addison goes to the Vikings. A couple of guys that they kind of had their eye on, Quentin Johnston goes to the Chargers. Really interesting kind of wide receiver, like, a lot of teams went after the receivers in that 19 to 24 range. Zay Flowers off the board, you know, to the Ravens, which is actually really awesome for Lamar. I'm really happy for him. He gets his contract and he gets a legitimate wideout in Zay, so that's really cool for him. But, you know, end of the day, Deonte Banks, this is a really great pick for the Giants because cornerbacks are always good value. There's a couple of positions that are just good value selections. Cornerback is one of the ones that you take high. You select high corners as often as you can because they're really hard to find in the mid-rounds. You don't often find top corners in the mid-rounds. You need to spend premium draft selections on players like this. Banks has the potential to take our secondary to another level paired with Adoree Jackson, and it gives us some time to go and extend Dexter Lawrence. It keeps the cap hit low. 25th overall pick in the first round is extremely affordable, and you get the fifth-year option down the line. So Banks, we got him locked up for years to come. A lot of developmental upside. We have some of the best coaches in football. How do you feel about this secondary coming together now with guys like Xavier McKinney? Obviously, you have Banks, Adoree Jackson, some depth pieces there. What happens now at strong safety? The Giants may want to go out. You have Dane Belton, who we like, guy, out of Iowa last year, hard hitter, pretty decent in zone coverage, not a really great man coverage strong safety, can kind of step up and help in the run sometimes. He had a lot of missed tackles, didn't really look that great at times in his rookie season, but that's why it's a rookie season. It's meant to be a developmental year for a lot of these players. What are you thinking about strong safety right now? Do you think the Giants maybe are targeting one in the second or third rounds? Brian Branch, for what it's worth, is still on the board. I last time I checked. So that's definitely exciting. Maybe they want to trade up and go after a guy like Branch, or maybe they want to go after a receiver like Jonathan Mingo. Your draft may actually come to fruition here if things keep going the way they are.
Yeah, listen, my mock draft is looking better and better by the minute. The New York Giants going with Deonte Banks in the first round, as I predicted. And of course, Jonathan Mingo still being on the board and being a very hot name entering day 2. Yes, it's absolutely possible that the Giants go with him. But if you're asking me, what do I feel about this secondary? Well, yes, I think that the secondary just got majorly upgraded. When you're looking at it, you have Adoree Jackson as your CB1 last year, but who was your CB2? When you got into the divisional round of the postseason and you were facing A.J. Brown plus Devontae Smith, who was facing both of those players? Well, yes, you had Adoree Jackson on A.J. Brown, but who was facing Devontae Smith? And vice versa. If A.J. Brown was moved and Devontae Smith was going up against Adoree Jackson, who was facing A.J. Brown, right? So it was a tough matchup for the New York Giants in the secondary last year, but you have a guy like Deonte Banks now. Am I saying he's going to be day one, instantly, the best player in the NFL? No, absolutely not. But I do believe he'll be an upgrade over what the Giants had, and I do believe that he is a more promising young player than the promising young players that the Giants have, because he is a first-round talent and he is an elite athlete. So when you're comparing him to guys like Aaron Robinson, guys like Cordell Flott, Deonte Banks comes in with more potential and probably with more talent than either of those guys on the field from day one. So that's why I really like him as a boundary cornerback starting opposite of Adoree Jackson. And again, when you're looking at this defense, yes, They could potentially go with Brian Branch at safety, but as you mentioned, maybe they go wide receiver in round 2. I know a lot of Giants fans, again, as I mentioned, really wanted them to go with a receiver in the first round. They came close to Jordan Addison, they came close to Zay Flowers, came close to Quentin Johnson, but there was a big run on wide receivers in the first round. So maybe in round 2, they circle back around. Maybe that's where they get their Jonathan Mingo, their Josh Downs, whoever the case might be, Tank Dell, name your pick. There's wide receivers abundant in the second and third rounds of this draft, but there's not cornerbacks abundant. If you wanted an elite cornerback, you needed one in round 1, and the Giants, they got one. They got an elite cornerback prospect who's an elite athlete who can start from day 1. That's rare. It's very difficult to find players like that in the NFL draft, and the Giants, I feel like they just found one who can make that big impact from his first step on the football field. But Alex, before we wrap this one up, there is something that I need to know about this whole pick. I got to get your opinion on the trade, right? Because personally, for me, I'm okay with it. I like the Giants moving up one spot. Clearly, they heard something. If I had to speculate, this is just what I'm going to say. I'm going to throw this out as speculation. I have to assume that the Jaguars called the Giants and said, hey, listen, this team wants this player. We know that you want this player. Make us a move up one pick, make us a trade, move up one pick, and get this player. So the Giants gave up picks 160, 240 to move up one spot. Personally, it's fine with me. A 5th round pick and a 7th round pick to move up one spot and ensure that you get this elite athlete at the cornerback spot, for me, I like it. But Alex, maybe you have a differentiating opinion. Maybe others in the comment section do. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on the Giants trading up to get Deonte Banks rather than sticking and picking and hoping that he's there at 25.
Yeah, this is fine in my opinion. It's a 5th and a 7th round pick, guys. 7th round picks are basically garbage picks. They're throwaways. You don't usually end up with all of them anyway, especially because the Giants had 3. So you end up throwing one of those away. Totally fine. 5th round picks, those are still a shot in the dark, especially in a weaker draft class by most accounts. 5th round picks, you're looking at what Micah McFadden last year was a 4th. I think he was a 5th round pick. He wasn't very productive for us, and maybe he does better this year. It's a shot in the dark. You make sure you get your guy in the first round, even if it means you have to give up a pick down the road. The Giants could always move back in the 3rd round or the 2nd round if they wanted to and still, get their picks back. There's ways to do that. So maybe they trade someone on the roster currently and they get more selections. Who knows? There's a variety of things that could unfold here for the Giants. But do I care about them moving up with the Jacksonville Jaguars and giving up 2 late round picks to get their guy in Deonte Banks? Absolutely freaking not. If you are, you're out of your damn mind, because ultimately the Giants wanted a specific player. They already had it, and Joe Shane just said a couple minutes ago, they already had this deal in place. They had spoken with the Jaguars earlier in the day, and they had said, we're going to give you this to move up one spot, and Jacksonville said, we are talking with other guys, like you mentioned. They were talking with other teams as potential candidates to move up into that pick, and the Giants were scared. We don't want to lose our guy, especially because in the past, we've been leapfrogged for our guy. Micah Parsons, Devonta Smith, we got leapfrog for both of those guys. You don't run the risk when you're right there. So Joe Shane, being the smart man he is and obviously thinking ahead, he said, oh, okay, I don't want to get screwed like the past general manager did. I'm going to go make this trade, make sure we get our guy in Deonte Banks, walk into the sunset, and live to see another day and be happy with our decision and our choice. And I think that is ultimately what it boils down to, just preemptively thinking ahead, making the smart decision, and making sure you get the premium talent instead of waiting on a 5th and 7th round pick, which likely won't pan out anyway. So you go for your guy in the first round, you make sure you get that elite talent, and Deonte Banks has CB1 potential. And in this NFC East division, where you have elite receivers across the freaking board, you need legitimate cornerbacks. Adoree Jackson, Deonte Banks, we can now at least assume we're going to hang with those top receivers in the division, because you're looking at AJ Brown, you're looking at Devonta Smith, you're looking at some ridiculous guys, CeeDee Lamb. We need these cornerbacks to compete, and the Giants made sure they got one that's going to help us do just that.
Yeah, and listen, one other little wrinkle that I'll add to this whole trade conversation, because again, I know that some Giants fans don't like the trade up, but as you just broke it down, the Giants have had this trade in place all day. But another wrinkle that I'll throw in there, this was a cap-saving move by the New York Giants. They cannot afford to pay 10 rookies. Right now, they don't have a lot of cap space. Drafting a first-round rookie technically puts the Giants over the salary cap. That's what it does to them. So they're going to have to make some moves between now and the regular season in order to fit Deonte Banks under the salary cap, and of course also to fit the rest of the rookies that they draft throughout this draft over the weekend under the salary cap. So if you're the New York Giants, yes, you absolutely sacrifice that 7th and that 5th overall or their 5th round picks in order to draft your day one starter at the cornerback position, because you also save some extra money. And I think that's a little wrinkle to this conversation that not enough people are discussing currently. So just throwing that out there, this also was a cap saving move by the New York Giants to move up that one spot, give up those draft picks, and save some cap space by not having to pay 2 extra draft prospects, draft rookies, whatever you want to call them. But again, I love this pick. I've been all over this all week. I've been saying Deonte Banks should be the pick. If you go back and you listen to yesterday's episode where I talked about the New York Giants 3-round mock drafts, Deonte Banks was my number 1 guy for the Giants with the 25th overall pick to get him at 24, and I'm thrilled. Alex is thrilled, and all of you, I hope, are also thrilled because, again, what a selection, an elite athlete, and a true CB1 potential player in the first round for the New York Giants. How could you not be thrilled about this pick? So if you're thrilled, let us know down below in the comment section. If you don't like it, also let us know down below in the comment section. We want to hear your thoughts on this first round pick down below. And again, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And of course, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.